So many of you know that United Way puts most of our community investments in three areas: improving our education system and making sure that kids start school ready to learn and graduate school ready for life, increasing access to affordable health care, and helping families become self-sufficient. Well, we noticed something going on a few years ago, and that is that 80% of the calls coming into our 211 Community Resource and Referral Center were from people who needed financial help. They needed help paying their bills. And we were putting a lot of effort into financial stability programs across the state, and the calls kept coming in more and more. And so we began thinking, well, what's wrong with these people? Why can't they pay their bills? So we decided to look at data, and we partnered with the University of Washington Center for Women's Welfare, who has done studies like this across America. And they looked at county by county in all 46 of our counties in South Carolina. What are the real costs of living without any benefits, public or private? And the results are very sobering. The income that's required for a family to be self-sufficient varies wildly by region. And for families with young children, like the family that we were pretending to be a few minutes ago, child care typically accounts for 50% of their budget. Don mentioned this briefly in his introduction. But of the 10 most common occupations in our state, only one of them, registered nurses, makes enough money in all 46 counties to pay their bills. That means every single day when their alarm goes off, 24% of our workforce is screwed. They're not going to make it. They can't add up the numbers. You can't cut it enough or stretch it enough or patch it together enough to make it. A couple of bits and pieces from our data. The Lawrence County Chamber of Commerce is going to love us for this. Lawrence County has the lowest cost of living for an adult with a preschooler at $12.49 an hour, which, if you'll think about it, is 60% over the minimum wage. Beaufort County, where we are now sitting, has the highest cost at $18.43 an hour. I want you to look around this hotel this weekend and think about how many of the staff here make that. And the third thing that it told us is that using the federal poverty level, that number that we were playing with earlier, is hopelessly outdated. It makes no sense using it for economic, tax policy, or for social policy. Besides, it's the same number whether you're on the west side of Manhattan or the west side of Allendale. Taking a little look at York County, this is just a snapshot. Even families that are getting benefits are not making it. York County's self-sufficiency standard, the lowest level at which a family of one adult, one preschooler, and one school-age child can make it without benefits, is $43,775. When you add up everything from Medicaid, this would be an extremely lucky family. They get every possible benefit: Medicaid, CHIP, SNAP, child care vouchers. Incidentally, 12% of those who qualify for child care vouchers, 12% of those who qualify for child care vouchers in our state receive them. Add up every single available public dollar in our state and look at where that family is. They can't make it. So how do we do this? Well, the first thing is we have to raise incomes. South Carolina has had a long history of being the low-cost leader in workforce and what it costs to have a workforce. In fact, for the first 200 years of our organized history, we had, well, a workforce that made us an economic world power. In rice and cotton and indigo, we didn't have to pay them at all. The second thing we can do is reduce costs. That's using work supports like child care vouchers, health care, food, housing, tax policy. Increasing skills, educational opportunity and support, and increasing assets. We're going to talk a lot about that this weekend. We have to. We have to think about emergencies, flat tires, and then we have to think about retirement. We have to think about getting families beyond just self-sufficiency. So we did a second part of the study, which is almost complete and will be out shortly, called On the Road to Economic Security. And it actually looks at what are the basic needs, everything from housing, childcare, food, transportation, medical care, miscellaneous, clothes, diapers, and even putting a little bit in there for savings, and that hits the self-sufficiency standard. We have to secure people's basic needs first, and then we can move to savings. If you lose your job, and you are particularly one of these vulnerable families, the self-sufficiency standard has told us it's going to take an average of 2.72 months, that's when the economy's good, an average of 2.72 months to get a job. The average job loss will cost that family that much. If you don't have a savings fund to cover 2.5 months of your salary, for that family we were just looking at, that would be somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,000, and oh, by the way, that would prevent them from getting any of those benefits. We have set up a perverse public policy which destroys people's desire to work their way out of poverty. And we have done it in the name of smaller government and more efficiency. We also have to have a path to self-sufficiency, which includes things like post-secondary education, whether it's technical school, or whether it's a trade, whether it is a university degree. We have to make more post-secondary education more available to more people. We've got to work on our housing and home ownership. We have to make better housing more available to more people. And finally, we have to help people save money. We've got to stop punishing them because they're trying to scrape together some assets. The solutions are pretty obvious, but the policy and lifestyle changes are hard. And everybody's ox gets gored in this one. Liberals don't like it because it says we've got to have work supports and benefits reform. Conservatives don't like it because it's talking about changing the way our benefits work and, yes, putting more money into them. That's why we're talking about it this weekend, because no matter what side of the discussion we're on, we can figure out a way to move forward on it. We have to. We cannot afford to be America's low-cost workforce leader anymore because it's preventing us from being where we need to be, and that's America's most successful and entrepreneurial state. So, if you want to have a full copy of the standard, you can go to United Way Association's website. You can download a PDF file of that. If you want to get a copy of the economic security pathways in South Carolina, email us. We'll get you on the waiting list. That'll be out shortly, and we'll get you a copy. Thank you. Mark?